allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, official roll call. Nathan.
Here.
Billy.
Here.
Stephanie.
Here.
I'm here. Ben. Tony.
Here.
Fran.
Here.
Jennifer.
Here.
And Dan. All right, 8 board members are present. We'll get started tonight with some board comment. I want to share, just because she caught me on my way out of the soccer game, that Mrs. Smith expressed that she was going to make sure everything was going well over there and just get here when she could. I told her not to worry one bit about it, and where she was important, but she felt badly and wanted it known that she would get here when she could. But I think everything was going really well. I hope they're erased the deficit. They were down 1-0 when the boys were. So hope they're coming back and win that game over there. So that's my first piece of board comment there. We'll open it up to any general board comments from any board trustee. Fran.
I just want to thank the entire district. Homecoming was an amazing week for our student body. Having a senior, he said this was the best homecoming week they had ever had, and they just had a lot of fun. So I just want to thank the administration and the time that I know went into it, and allowing some leeway with some of their crazy shenanigans that they put on. And when I say shenanigans, it was all in good fun, and there wasn't anybody hurt or no property hurt or anything, but they enjoyed it and they had a really good time. And I know that that is not easy for the staff to deal with. Homecoming week is a crazy time. So thank you for the effort that went into that. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Fran. Yeah. It's good. Yes, Jennifer.
Just add, I saw that the admin, you guys put together an awesome scarecrow. And I think seeing you guys participating in, the community events and everything. I was gonna bring that up with homecoming. I just think that as a whole, the spirit that's surrounding school right now is really, really good, and it's nice to see. And I'm thankful for it.
Wanted to add to that too, that I appreciate that and love seeing some of the staff engaged in last weekend downtown, seeing the kids with their jazz band, their pop stuff they had going on, and the band teacher there playing, and just people engaged in the community was just fantastic. So, Dave.
Speaking on all of that, with the retreat that you guys, with what we participated in, it was really great. Like the information that we covered and everything there, and particularly like the CTE program that you guys spoke about, it's very encouraging. I talked to a lot of community members about it, and they're super excited. Seeing you dance at the bonfire, because that's on video. I see. And like it was spoken about before, like the engagement with you guys. I love the administration that you guys have put together. It's really good, and there's a lot of good vibes going on. So thank you guys. It's awesome.
Well, I appreciate you calling that dancing.
Tony.
So a couple months ago, I came up with an idea, and it's always been a pet peeve of mine that we hand out awards to Silverwood. And so the local drugstore, Valley Drug, and the Frontier Cafe have basically given the board, we have 1,000 tokens for free ice cream cones. That Dave has 200 of them that showed up here a few days ago. And he'll be handing them out to teachers, and you guys can hand them out as awards however you see fit. But it promotes community and business, and some kids can have without dragging their parents off to Silverwood for a $1,400 weekend. Anyway, yeah, the Frontier Cafe and the Valley Drug are the ones that put that together with a little help from me. So,
That's awesome.
but we'd like to add them out as the board. I don't want, it's not, it's for the entire board or from the entire board, not anyone specifically.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank Tony too. He's being humble about it. He was, talked to me, he wanted it very much to be a board effort and one thing, you know, if I saw any problem in that, of course, I don't think so, but, yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, humble, approach to it and doing good things for kids. Thank you for passing them out as you see fit. Other board comments?
No stealing.
All right, we'll open the floor for public comment. This is the time for comment on matters that are not on tonight's agenda. Topics for public comment cannot include any pending legal matters, private personnel issues, or private student issues. The board cannot enter into any discussion during general public comment. The board may occasionally ask questions to clarify public comment, or the board may correct inaccurate statements if warranted, but no member of the board will enter into a discussion or answer questions that are posed at this time. Is there public comment? All right. We'll move then into our first item requiring action, and that is approval of minutes, which are found in your packet. And those minutes start with the September 10th meeting, the regular September meeting. And my appreciation to our Vice Chair, Stephanie Esch, for running that meeting. So questions on these minutes? And if not, is there a motion to approve them?
I move to approve the, was it September 10th minutes?
Thank you, Jennifer. Is there a second?
Second.
Nathan, thank you. Further correction, any correction to these minutes? Were they approved? Okay. Okay, all those in favor of approving the September 10th minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We'll move to our board work retreat. So the public knows we held a day-long work retreat on Monday, September 23rd. And of course, the minutes, once approved, are public information about those, or they'll be posted publicly. Is there questions about these before we have a motion to approve them? Christie has
I had two things brought to my attention.
Okay.
Updating. One was that I missed having Stephanie listed as present at the work session.
Okay.
So I added that. And then Dan asked me to change something on line 96. So I changed his comment. He asked me to change it to say, don't care if graduation is held indoors or outdoors. $6,500 expense for trailer and video screen is not appropriate use of taxpayer dollars. And I just changed that line to read that exactly the way that he asked me to, which was fine. It was just an interpretation thing, so I changed it to that instead. Those were the only two changes that were brought to my attention, and that's what I changed those two.
Okay, so we'll be approving those changes. Should we move forward? Are there other items? Stephanie?
We covered it.
That was what you wanted to cover. Okay, that's there. Is there a motion to approve the work session or the work board stated changes?
So moved.
Billy? Tony in a second. All those in favor of approving the board retreat minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Tonight in front of you, you have two sets of claims, our general claims, starting with 41,710, and then those move into the additional claims that you were given tonight, which I believe end with 41,790. Claims in front of you total $154,587.16. Student accounts are running $12,570.01. So the general public knows we had a work session before this board meeting where we went over a number of questions that folks have about claims and such. And of course, work sessions are open to the public as well. Is there anything else that anybody wanted to get clarity on before we approve tonight's claims? All right. Is there a motion to approve? Yes, Christie?
Do you want me to bring up anything that was brought to me, ahead of time, mention anything like that, questions?
I think that could be good. Trustees that brought questions to Christie, would it be good for the rest of the board to know? Okay, all right, yep, let's do that.
I was asked about claim number 41718 for office furniture for Dick Caney, and my answer was that it was for $3,000, and the question was why it was purchased, and that was because Mr. Larson owned the furniture that was in the office, and so Mr. Key didn't have any furniture when he got there, so purchased furniture for his office. So that was the reason behind that.
Beanbag and charger.
The other question was on claim number 41733 for Smith Consulting, which is for our E-rate. And so that is something that we get federal funding for technology, and we pay her a percentage of what the district gets services for. And that was what we were paying. Her name is Christy Smith.
And I asked that question. I'll ask a follow-up to that. Does she then also help with the lighting projects we've done? Because we've qualified for some rebates there and we needed to kind of stay on top of that.
No, it's mostly just internet and internet access and devices that fall into that. So the lighting projects would not fall under the E-rate category.
The other one was payments that we've made to OPI recently. One is called the Education Savings Account, and that is a program that provides funded reimbursements for special education services. For families that obtain outside services outside the Montana Public Schools. So that is a process where a family applies and is granted funding outside of the Montana Public Schools, and then we get notified by OPI and we pay OPI, and then OPI reimburses that family. And so you'll see those periodically when we have families that have applied, and usually they've been a student here in your district prior and then decided to do it outside of the school district. So you might see those claims periodically. And then they'll just notify us when they decide that they're solving that. So we did a fair release process.
Further questions?
And those were the only three that I had.
Thank you.
Questions?
Public questions or comments on the claims? All right. Would there be a motion to approve September claims 41710 through 41790 for $154,587.16, and September student accounts for $12,570.01 for a total of $167,157.17. Stephanie's moved.
Second.
Jennifer second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We'll move on to our consent agenda. And before we dive into the consent agenda, and you see that it's a fairly lengthy one there, we're pleased to be able to have a name to be employed tonight that also happens to be a family member of a trustee. Roman numeral 24 on your consent agenda, family member of Trustee Schmitz, and state law requires that due to familiar nature that Trustee Schmitz would abstain from that in particular. And so would it be possible to have a motion to remove Roman numeral 24 from the consent agenda, and so it stands on its own? Dan?
Second.
Tony, all those in favor of removing Lynn Bradford from the consent agenda to be approved on her own, separate from the
And I
All-
will abstain from that.
And Fran goes on record abstaining from this motion as well. Thank you. All opposed, same sign. All right, unanimous with Fran abstaining. So, with that being said, items on tonight's consent agenda have been organized as such due to their similar nature and have been deemed unlikely by the superintendent and the board chair to require individual discussion. Any trustee has the right to request that an item be removed from the consent agenda and be debated and acted upon by itself. In addition to what we've already done, does any trustee wish to remove another item from tonight's consent agenda? Okay, trustee approval of the consent agenda only pertains to those items that trustees legally have the right to approve under Montana Code annotated. Is there any objection to approving the consent agenda tonight as presented, excluding Roman numeral 24? Seeing none, consent agenda is approved. We'll now take up the hiring of Lynn Bradford as an elementary paraeducator. Is there any discussion? Christie?
Is it actually 29? Sorry.
That was
I just
good.
wanted-
Oh, 29. Yep, it's 29. Thank you. I keep saying 24.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna change my notes. as well.
Yeah, no, I did, yeah, poor job in that. Was that a math class? Yes, it's 29.
I was with you.
Right. You're rolling 24. Right. Right. These things are only used for the Super Bowl. It's 29, yeah, yes. Okay, 29,
I'd be happy to make a motion.
please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the hiring of Lynn Bradford for an elementary paraprofessional as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, yes. Jennifer cannot. Tony seconds that. This is an elementary only position, so trustee Gunterman is not able to vote, and then trustee Schmitz
I will be abstaining.
will be abstaining. So there'll be 6 people here. All those in favor of hiring Lynn Bradford as an elementary paraeducator, we'll start with Nathan. How do you vote?
Aye.
Billy?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
I vote aye. Tony?
Aye.
And Dan?
Aye.
All right, 6-0. Thank you for that action on tonight's consent agenda. We'll now move into our informational items, starting with our superintendent report.
Yeah, pretty basic report today, just, some dates of upcoming committee meetings and, scheduling issues coming up, pointing out human resource vacancies. Open is a second semester high school PE teacher. We still have a half-time paraeducator to fill and 2 custodial positions that have been, open since I arrived here. And, of course, one maintenance position. And then we're ongoing with our substitutes and whatnot. So, having some trouble finding applicants for sure. But gonna continue to work on that and fill some of those as best we can.
And I made a mistake. I wanted to notify the board, and it ties into your report there on staffing positions, noting that looking for a second semester PE teacher due to Miss Williams' sabbatical or leave of absence. We also just approved hiring her as the junior class advisor, right? And I clarified with Dave that that is a half-year stipend position, even though I forgot to clarify that for the board.
And we'll have a replacement for that position.
Okay. Okay, so the board knows that's not a full year position, so Nate.
Have we, when we talked about it at the retreat, have we looked at or talked about, I know that was very, maybe it wasn't that long ago, but you know, with the custodial positions or maintenance positions, have you looked at any sort of CTE type of program for that to get some of the kids involved?
We have had students work and still do on occasion have students work after school for a couple of hours in the evening. So those that can do help out, but that's not included in this.
Oh, yes.
They're not, advertised in this particular manner, but we do have some students that do work.
Good. Cool. How about our IT director thing? And Lindy's there.
Yeah, so, today, one of the things that with the resignation of, Greg Scheller, or retirement of Greg Scheller, I don't know if he's retiring or moving on to more, different work. I have asked K-12 to increase the number of days that they are helping us here on campus. Caleb is working hard to try to fill in the gaps there, but has some things that K-12 can help with. And I really want to take some time to work with our technology committee and evaluate the needs that we have moving forward and what sorts of models that may present for the district to best serve the needs. The big thing, and we had this short conversation today in our technology committee, is technology has to be focused on the end user. It has to be focused on, the people that need it, and that's the teachers and students, and, also support staff. But in the end, it's got to be for kids and teachers. So we want to evaluate that process.
Question, Dan?
Correct me if I'm wrong, we did our A and B count the other day. Do we have any number?
So this is not official.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but I was handed a note today when it asked, high school was 352, and I want to say the elementary EK through 8 was, it might be 626, but I might be getting that confused with my library number. But there was a small increase compared to last year in the elementary and comparable to the same in the high school as last year.
And our Harmony homeschool enrollment numbers are?
Yeah, we had 11, all of which were in the elementary school in the end. So kudos to our secretarial staff who, particularly Tina Severin, who got lots of those students enrolled last minute. Last week was the deadline for enrollment for those kids, but there were 11 students that enrolled in our district through the Harmony program.
Yeah, well done, folks who took that on in a short amount of time. That's great. Thank you. I want to call some attention to the committee meetings that we all serve on and that are all noted there. I know we've talked as a board at length about how do we make sure we're all staying up to speed and we're aware of what's going on. We're not going to go through detailed reports on that. I do want to share with the board that a fair amount of things find their way back into the governance committee for kind of ongoing discussion and dialogue. And we continue to talk about, how can we make sure we're all on the same page with things. I will ask the folks on facilities committee, we're looking good for next week to visit with Joyce Ann.
Correct.
Thank you, Billy.
And at least she's going to try and bring some more of the board members for the community foundation, and so we'll have to start having that discussion.
Okay, and that date works, or that time and date works well for the rest of the committee.
I won't be there. I spoke to Dave about that last week.
Okay.
I have to be in Texas.
But the meeting will move forward. Okay. I would offer then, just based on the rules of quorum and state law, then with Nathan's absence, if another board member wanted to attend, they could certainly talk to Dave. I will not be there either, but somebody else could certainly go.
Who will be there?
No,
Who will?
oh, you and Tony.
Okay.
And then if somebody else wanted to be there Tuesday morning at 8:30, we would still not be in violation of quorum then. Correct. So somebody could do that. Is there any questions about the different things? Is there anybody on a committee that would like to make a quick share with the rest of the board on something important that they think we should all know about?
Can I ask about the parking lot?
Yes.
Timelines and whatnot?
Yeah, it kind of depends upon the availability of when.
Has he been able to foresee the future at all?
At this point, we do have approval from the mayor to move the stop sign. So that that barrier is removed. It's just a matter of whether or not the timing is right to get that.
And I think that kind of went toward, we knew that we were up against the weather. And so that was going to get pushed to spring as we were going into this whole discussion as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
It was kind of a double-edged sword that if the fall's nice, which it has been, then his other projects extend on as well. If the fall turns yucky, then everything slows down, including us, so. Okay, other comments on committees and the work of the board, okay? Mr. Tennis, further items in your superintendent's report.
Yeah, just policy committee, we had a discussion about memorial policy and naming policies with the passing of our Coach Surratt. That has been on the minds of several of our community members. And so there is definitely a process to naming facilities. So we had a conversation about that because that has been a request from some folks in the community. And so discussion surrounding that and discussion about scholarships and things like that are gifts to the district, just really for more information and just discussion. But we did focus our attention on policies related to FERPA. And so that will be our next step. So we reviewed 3600, 3600B and 3600 F2. We intend to look at those closely in comparison to MTSBA model policy. So that was our work in policy committee. Resource committee, we had a transfer out of our copy center to a parent educator position. So Melody Johnson, who was on your consent agenda, was a district office support that volunteered to transfer into a vacant para position. We have not filled the copy center position. And at this point, I am working on a restructuring in the district office that would not fill that position, but we would cover that in-house. And then, like I mentioned before, our technology director, same idea. I really want to take some time to evaluate needs and figure out what that model looks like moving forward. And then ad hoc had some discussion about and procedural things that go into that. So we discussed transportation, and then the state legislature is looking at various changes to funding public schools. And so trying to learn what the nuances of the funding formula would be and what those changes may look like, and trying to get ahead of that and really just trying to inform the committee and learning a little bit more about those models. So that is it. Any questions on any of those topics?
All right. Thank you. Questions from the public? Superintendent's report. All right. Thank you. Yes.
Do you want any, I have some information from STARS actually. If you
Oh.
want that right now. Or do you want to wait on that?
No, that fits. It's misinformation. It's not action. And yeah, I think
All right.
that's appropriate.
Sarah messaged me and said that they are planning on hosting a ribbon cutting ceremony at one of the first basketball games this fall to celebrate the Hall of Fame wall that's in there.
Okay. All right.
So there'll be more details on that, I'm sure.
Super. Are they hosting a dinner gala? It's to be determined.
Oh, for the Hall
this
of Fame
one.
gala.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're already working on that.
Okay. For sure. Okay. All right. Thank you. Good to know. All right. Keeping in the spirit of informational items, very pleased to have some really great information in your packet on comprehensive, a really nice report from our elementary, which is our ELP through 5th grade, and then some updates and information from what's going on in curriculum. So Superintendent Tennis, I'll turn it over to you to lead us through that and point to the people that you need to.
And I'll just turn it directly over to our fantastic elementary administrators, starting with Sierra Bauer, our elementary principal. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on in the elementary building.
Perfect. Thank you.
So yes, you all received a copy of our report. We're excited to share some fun things with you that align with the goals that we're working towards. Student achievement, like you guys talked about, our homecoming, we had a lot of fun. We really took advantage of us all being on one campus and brought high schoolers over to a pep assembly that Mr. Cohen participated in. Huh. No, he did do some fun, soccer playing and football catching and different things with those high schoolers to get those littles pumped up for sports. So that was a lot of fun. A lot of school spirit. They learned the school song and music class. They all sang it in the gym. It was really a great week. It was a hectic week, crazy week, but the teachers loved the spirit. So that was fun. And then we just kind of highlighted some things that each of our grades are doing. Right now, fifth grade is doing some goods and services, which they have done years past. And some of the fifth graders wanted to, they didn't know how late the board meeting was, or maybe how long sometimes it goes, but some of them have stated that they wanted to come to do some speeches for you guys, which we thought was really cute, and maybe eventually we'll get there, but they were excited to be talked about tonight. Fourth grade did some volcanoes, some bubble trouble. Were you in the classroom when they did some of that bubble trouble? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, they showed the ability of volcanoes to take different shapes depending on the amount of pressure they have. Then they did a demonstration of that using bubbling up from glass and then overflowing safely, and then which creates different shapes of volcanoes. So they've been working on landforms.
And then going on to third grade, they did some awesome science and ELA combo learning, designing bridges, and then so they did hands-on designing bridges, built bridges, and then did some artwork with that as well, which you can see in our halls if you find yourself over in that area. They did the Constitution Week, so we had some wonderful ladies come in with our third graders and teach the Constitution in sign language. That was a lot of fun. High school, again, we had some Miss Amy Paxton's class come over and did some fun stuff with our second grade class. Miss Motley, do you want to chime in? How was that?
It was fun. The kids they've been studying the My Plate, all the different nutritional things, and they had to turn the My Plate story into a fairy tale. And so, I mean, we had Jack, something, it wasn't Jack, it was the kid's name and the bean stalk. And then there was one that was a Pokemon theme. There was a Cinderella, there was a Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and the dwarfs had different, like, was broccoli, but it was the sleepy one. I mean, they were hilarious. And the kids, I mean, usually they're pretty wiggly, but they sat through it because the kids rotated and they heard all of the stories. And then the next day they were like, where are the big kids? They were really bummed that they weren't back. So, I mean, it was fun. So it was a good time.
And then first grade there, just highlighting their learning through play, really working on those hands-on materials in science as well as those social skills. Kindergarten, this is Walthall's class, gets a free book every month. That's something that she set up. And so kiddos in her class get to take a book home, and last month was Eat the Cat. And then our early literacy program has been doing a lot of fun things, and this one is just highlighting those primary colors and then playing and doing some science with that. And there was a lot more things that teachers and students submitted that we could sit here all night and talk about, but we'll just highlight those couple things. Next page is that second goal of employee excellence. I'll let Mr. Cummins talk a little bit about the professional development piece.
Sure. This report obviously goes directly with the 5 board goals. And so this, like you said, the second goal was talking about employee excellence. So one of the first things we wanted to highlight was our professional development, how we started the year off with teacher clarity. And it's been something that we've been talking about at the admin level and really wanting to work forward through all of our professional development to be able to be as clear as possible. We know that there is a huge impact, the more clear we are with our communication. And that goes right down to how we address objectives and instruction in the classroom and making sure that our students and our families know exactly what we're teaching and how they can be successful. We've had, also highlighted in the report, just some work with the administration teams continuing the teacher clarity stuff as well. Using a book called the Teacher Clarity Playbook with teachers, but we also are using a book called PLC Plus Playbook, and that's helping us understand how to use these professional learning communities to forward the change that we want to see for our schools. And then on the bottom, we are trying to highlight our superhero squad, which are our paraprofessionals. They have been phenomenal to work with so far. They are the glue that keeps our elementary going, supporting so many of our students, not only with special needs, but supporting our students all over on the playground and lunchroom. The next goal is goal number 3, looking at which is family, community, and external engagement. We just wanted to bring up the fact that we had so many staff members and even community members tell us this was the most people that they've seen at back to school night for a couple of years at the beginning of the year. So we wanted to highlight that, even though we're already into October here. I wanted to go back and highlight that at the beginning of September. And then, of course, that engagement with our community with the homecoming parade. That was my first one. I actually did, Corvallis just down the road, got to do that, and our streets not longer. So it's just, I think it's been great. Because we need to go further than they do. There's just more people, more cars and floats and kids and people up and down the street. I thought it was an unbelievable event to bring everyone's PK club together and our community for a fun parade. And I'm done.
Sorry.
Goal number 4 is safety and wellness. One of the board goals is to continue looking at how we can decrease behaviors in our school in 2 ways. One is working on this stuff systematically with our systems that we have in place. One of the new systems that we're using is called PASS, the behavior gain, and we've had some training in that. I think we had 9 new staff members trained in it. So our goal is to get everyone trained in this game. And I say game, but it's more of a classroom management philosophy than a game. And it's really been working well within our classrooms. And we're all starting to use a lot of the same language across the whole elementary, which has been powerful. And that's one of the key components in a successful positive behavior intervention system is having some of the same verbiage that we all use, and it helps make it so it's not just our kids, just my kids in my classroom, it's our kids in our school, and so we can use that verbiage all over the school at the same time. Also, along with that, teachers don't know this, I've told them once, but we're actually building a behavior toolbox, and we started in our last meeting that we had with our PLC. I collected every single classroom teacher's top 5 discipline classroom management strategies that they use, that they feel comfortable with, and they would say those are their top 5. And so we're starting to make this big booklet of behavior strategies that's going to include several different components that we can share across the whole school and ask other teachers What are you using? What are you doing? And then can I come and watch this? Can I come see this? And so we're going to continue to build this behavior toolbox. I think it'd be a really great tool for new teachers that come into our school to be able to see what's going on. Along with it, in this toolbox, teachers are going to, they don't know this yet, but I'm giving them a preview that are here. They are going to list the strategies that they have in their toolbox. And then they're gonna try to find within the toolbox 3 or 4 new strategies from someone else within our school to try out. And so the whole goal of this is to be a living document that we can continue to keep working to build our classroom management and behavior management skills and strategies throughout. So that's another thing that we're working on to help meet that goal. That's in goal number 4. The last one, I'll hand back over to Sarah.
So goal 5 of operations and capacity building. Jason, thanks for being here. You're in our board report here. We're just excited to continue working on that communication with transportation and having that partnership with them and moving forward. So thank you for being here. Thank you for bringing your job.
My go-to. She's the boss.
Any questions for us?
Thank you. Questions on the ELP through grade 5 report? Dan?
I sat through a lot of reports from administrators, made a few myself. I don't want to comment on how professional, how thorough it is, how well done. In fact, it is tied to the goals that we spend a great deal of time working on. I appreciate that. And I've already looked at John's and I've read that and I say the same comment for what John's going to present here as the curriculum director. The guy's doing a great job and very professional. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Tony?
Yes, I have a question. I'm trying to figure out where the staff has the time and what point is, at what point do you remove individual teacher style and micromanage that, and where is that sweet spot and where you let teachers teach and where you have more of a top down, this is our policy, this is exactly what every teacher in the school does. Just trying to feel my way along here and see where that is. How does that, how much time do they need to implement this? I've been trying to read this book and use information at light speed. I'm not very good at it, but I'm working through it. But I'm just curious how detailed you're going to follow these, what latitude teachers have to teach of their own style.
So tell me more about that. So to their own style, tell me more about what do you mean by that?
So, you know, I went to school a long time ago, but
Are you, you're referring to the PLC plus?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So, sorry. I think
Yeah,
that needs a comment.
we're implementing these policies, you know, and we're having these team meetings. I'm just curious how rigid these policies are set in what they are, because teachers have very different personalities and very different teaching styles. Some are amazing, some not so much. And so, instead of trying to, you know, take every round teacher and put them in a square hole, I'm just wondering what the latitude is of the teacher to implement some of their own teaching styles and personalities. Some personalities get along great, some kids, some not so much. I'm just wondering how does that mix in? How are we making it? How narrow is the slot you're trying to put everybody in? I guess.
Sure. So I would almost say the opposite of what you just said is we're broadening it, but we're giving structure to the framework, right? So we're giving a framework for it and allowing teachers to have a lot of autonomy for what they're doing. And it's just getting the same verbiage so we all can speak the same language in so many of our systems. We have so many systems going on, and it's like a whole bunch of silos, and they're not connected to each other. And so if we can give some verbiage and some framework to what we're doing, and then that's kind of the tight part that we're talking about, is getting that verbiage, and then letting teachers determine what that looks like through their own personal, how they connect with their kids, what engagement strategy use. Like, we're not telling them specifically what engagement strategies may be used to reach that student. So there's a ton of looseness in the middle. And then obviously the other side, the tightness, because you gotta have loose, right? You have to have tight and loose and tight to be able to make sure that we're going the same direction on the same street, right? Is the final goal of looking at our data. So does the data tell us, that we're doing well with all the stuff that's loose? If not, let's take a look at some of the best practices, best strategies. And what the PLC Plus model does is it allows us to be able to take a challenge, right? Whatever our current challenge is going on, and then uses a framework of questions, 4 questions, to be able to come to an answer. And it's not coming from them, coming from the PLC to help solve that question. So I feel like we're doing sort of the opposite of what, sorry, I'm just saying, I feel like we're doing the opposite, like we're trying to empower people down lower that are the trenches, giving them, suggestions, best practices and all that, to be able to hopefully, that final goal of increasing that student achievement data, which is, Emma can speak to that.
No, I super appreciate your explanation, because it's very difficult to know, sitting over here, exactly what this is. And then when people in the public ask you what's going on, to be able to explain that in a way that restraintfully you did, I think helps a lot, because it's super important that, that we know what we're up to, so we can support teachers appropriately and represent it appropriately in the community. So basically, you're at the other end of the scale from micromanaging here.
I'm hoping we're empowering people. We're just giving a system and a framework for all this to be under, like an umbrella, and then letting teachers have an autonomy within the classroom to be able to reach and teach the kids, right?
But no, I mean, I see what you're saying, but I can also see where if the wrong person took this, they could narrow this up very, very quickly too. I think you have an awesome approach, and I thank you for your efforts and time. Thank you.
Stephanie and then Nathan.
Really exciting to see this rolling forward. I know it's been building up for a while, and I know that you guys have all put so much work, effort, and thought into how this is going forward. So to see the steps manifesting it's thrilling, honestly. I was thinking about that while the two of you were talking about how powerful it seems like it would be to have this clear, organized framework, and then to have the input, the buy-in, the process going through the rest of the staff. And I just, I think that, I don't know, I really love that that's how those two things are marrying and how that's going forward. I want to also comment that I have experienced this myself, and I have heard from other members of the community, the level of communication coming out of all of the schools. I know we're specifically talking about elementary right now, but it's all of the schools, is on a higher level than it's been in the past, and people are appreciating it. I know in the past we've even gotten feedback like, oh, there's too much communication from the school, but then also people aren't hearing it. You guys are delivering clear messages without getting messed up in the weeds with a lot of this and that. And I think it was even maybe in this room at one of the last couple of board meetings, somebody said something that just is sticking with me about how we need to take this positive perception that people have of the school and keep moving forward with it. And it was so heartwarming and so genuine and so exciting to hear feedback like that in a board meeting. And now that I'm more aware of that, I keep hearing that in the community, and it's all the work that everybody's doing, and it's building and going somewhere. So this report is beautiful, and it just highlights so much of the work that you're doing. I really appreciate it. And sorry I'm so long-winded, but thank you.
Nate.
Hey, just a comment. Hey, to go on what everybody else said. You guys are bowling with bumpers. And same thing I do with what I do every day. You bowl with bumpers, you set the structure up. You get everybody involved in ball control. And the more people that are involved, the ball rolls faster. And so I think that your guys' level of communication, which was one of the biggest things why I wanted to be on the school board, you guys are kept. And I think that comes from pretty involved in the community and your guys' level of communication from the top down, from Dave to you guys to everybody else. So, phenomenal, and, thank you.
Agreed with all and very appreciative. Thank you for setting us up. This is a new thing to have these kind of structured reports. It's so great to be off on this good foot. And I know we've got one more coming up too. I have a question on the first page, Sierra. Can you explain K1? I'm following your enrollment numbers except for K1.
Nice, that's our combo class, kindergarten and first grade, so we have a class that Mrs. Yvette Larson is teaching, with some kindergartners and first graders in there. She was brave enough to step up on her last year, before she retires, to take on this challenge and, meet some of our students where they needed to be met, so that they could still move on to their next grade level, but still get some of those services and close some of those gaps.
And what is the goal then to send them all to second grade next year or?
So those kinders would go to first grade and those.
Okay, so it's truly a one-room schoolhouse,
Correct.
split grade type
Yeah.
of scenario.
Yep.
Okay. And so I guess to that point then, so as we saw last year with kindergarten, those numbers are down as the ELP numbers are up. So do you, looking at that kindergarten enrollment count, first grade count, does that have some rolling impacts then as that starts moving through those numbers compared to those higher grade numbers above them?
I mean, I think that's kind of hard to answer, especially with Harmony getting up and going too. I don't know what age parents are going to want to start doing that. It's hard to say right now.
Okay.
But overall, I mean, our numbers are good and
Right.
and increasing, which is exciting. But I do also, with that being said, think this early literacy program is going to just continue to beat up our numbers. And then we'll get that camp going this summer that goes along with that early literacy program. And again, just continue building that momentum.
And the 28 in ELP, that's 2 classrooms?
Correct.
Is there numbers or seemingly interest for more next year, or 2 is about our community?
For this year, 2 was perfect.
Right.
Moving forward, space would be another thing. Would love for that to be a problem, right? But 2 was perfect for this year, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Questions from the public? This is informational, so no action. All right, Mr. Tennis, Mr. Conan, on well laid out.
All right. In the curriculum report, Superintendent Tennis gave me also the sub goals for each of the goals that we have on the board. And one of the things that we talked about was trying to address some of those things in sub goals a little bit more specifically. When you look at my report, a little different from our elementary report, we get a little more specific on trying to hit some of those sub goals. And so that first sub goal that I wanted to hit was, it says, identify by January 2025 a timeline for core curricular areas in need of course and or staff growth, and provide implementation steps to achieve growth in the 25-26 school year while considering and reflecting on OPI's curriculum review cycle. So I don't know how much, if you guys were told a little bit about what's happened with curriculum at the state level, or let's talk about just over the last 5 years since COVID. So they've had this process. It's a 5-year cycle. All subject areas get reviewed for their standards against national standards that come out, or they just review them to see if they're still current, right? So they pull teachers from all over the state to review these different curriculums. And they each take a different year usually with these curriculums, so everything goes through a 5-year cycle. And so I put on in my report there what the law actually states on the right, on the MCA code, Montana Code Annotated, on what school districts are supposed to do. During COVID though, there was a 2-year stint where they stopped bringing people because of COVID together to meet. And they did not even meet virtually. So there was a 2-year hiatus of the curriculum adoption process, which is interesting because we have the MCA code on that, which should be done. OPI kickstarts it for all districts on when they start their curriculum process to purchase or review their own standards, right? And so not having that for 2 years has kind of, there is a timeline that they have set forth, but it's completely different from any timeline that they've used in the past. There's a lot of curriculum that's for review and have different end dates. And so that's kind of put a little bit of a crink into trying to create an exact timeline for us as we go forward, because we'll have new standards that get reviewed from the state. Then we would have a team that would review curriculum. So for example, English language arts, that one should be up next in what we've had in the past. We've looked at purchasing curriculum. I guess 2 years ago, we did not have the funds to be able to do so, and so that was kind of put off. And so that is something, it's your mainstay, English language arts, per all of the subject areas, and I feel like we do need an update. That would be the first one that we'd like to tackle as a curriculum team. And so we will come together and look at our, right now we started picking our essential standards. Those are our standards that are the most important standards within our curriculum. It's been stated if we were to teach every single standard completely in every single subject area, kids would be in school from kindergarten to grade 22, right? And so they purposely put a lot of standards in there. And so districts look at that and decide for their students and who they have, what are the most essential standards that you need to teach in order to go from grade to grade, course to course, and they feel adequate with it. Some of it's based on the data that you collect within your own district. Some of it's related to what the community may need going forward. And so there's a lot of aspects that we're going to be diving into as all 3 of our schools start this work actually tomorrow. And so we'll be doing this horizontally at our grade levels or course levels over the next couple months. And then we're going to start meeting vertically, where we start looking at different grade levels across, like how does 3rd grade apply to 4th grade standards, apply to 5th grade standards. So it's going to be a lot of work. And it's the most important part of this is the process that we use. We need a framework to be able to do this work. And that's where the TLC Plus model comes in. They'll be using that framework now to solve the question on how do we build a curriculum that is vertically aligned and has essential standards, and then build assessments from that, and then our daily lessons after that. And so that's kind of a little insight into where we're heading. We're going to try to do it as best we can. It's going to be a little messy as we start here. This is something that when we surveyed the staff has not been done for a while, and we have quite a few staff that have never done this kind of work ever before. So kind of just like a classroom, you have kids coming in, you have teachers coming into this experience with little experience, or some have extensive experience, and we'll tap those people that have that experience. And so we're trying to build the best professional development going forward, and using our early release Wednesdays to be able to do a lot of this work. So starting tomorrow, each of us are breaking up and teach and starting to choose our essential standards, and we're starting English language arts across the board K-12. If they don't teach English language arts, they're choosing another course that they would like to do. So we have obviously some people that don't teach English at the junior high and high school. So some of the things that we're going to continue to look at, we definitely want to be able to have a curriculum map. It'd be nice to know what students are learning in each month, and how does that connect to the standards, state standards that we are required to teach to. Obviously, having a 5-year review process, we'll be able to find, after we're going to get a new state superintendent of public instruction, hopefully will give us a little more guidance on that cycle. I can show you the current cycle. There's been a lot of discussion at the superintendent and state level about how that probably needs to be changed a little bit. So it kind of goes back to what it was a little bit before COVID with that process. We'll see what happens. And so I'd love to give you a better timeline on what we're going to do each year. But as soon as that next person gets put in place and they get that next process out, we're going to be able to do a much better job. I have a draft 5-year plan. I hate to publish and put it out because I don't to be held accountable to something that's kind of a moving target right now until we get new people into office after Elsie Arnson. I feel would not be the best plan yet. We're trying to use data to help drive our instruction, and I'll speak to that in upcoming reports that I do. I'm going to start doing reports once a month, every month for you. This is one of our main goals as a district, and so I will give you updates on as we go through this and be as transparent as possible with everybody, from our teachers to our community. We also want this data that we will collect from our instruction assessments to help with our purchasing and trying to find the best possible curriculum as we go forward, and building that into our budget in order to purchase curriculum with that upcoming materials that we're looking to purchase. Next one down, school board goal, sub-goal number 5, each grade and course will identify essential learning standards, so we're working on, initiate vertical alignment, we're working on that. Each grade establishes pacing guides, prioritizing identified learning standards, that's what we're working on, we're working on that. And then have assessments and instructional resources that are aligned to those essential standards. That's all the work that we're using that PLC Plus model and Teacher Clarity playbook to be able to go forward and create learning experience for our kids. Kind of spoke about that earlier. I've included a link to what we call, it's called Taking Care of Business Tuesdays. Every Tuesday, we've had about 7 of them now. It's just anywhere from 3 to 13 minutes of professional development. Kind of goes along with what we're doing. You can see what we're working on as a district. It does a lot of previewing of what's coming up next. Like today's Taking Care of Business Tuesday previewed what we're doing for tomorrow, so teachers can watch that. And then the goal of that is to, if teachers need to rewatch it, they can rewatch it to understand. Like we talked a little bit about how to choose an essential standard, how you look at a standard and you ask 6 main questions and determine whether it's essential or non-essential. And so we have some tests that go with that to be able to determine that. Again, that's going to be really messy. We haven't, a lot of people have never done this before. And so we've spent a lot of time as an admin team talking and hashing it out, because there's some stuff that I think at our level, we need to make sure we know what we're talking about when we go and work with teachers on this stuff as well. Goal number 2, I can stop anytime, or I can change go all the way through the report and then ask questions at the end. That work?
I think you're doing great.
Okay, goal number 2 is employee excellence. Highlighted the sub-goal number 3, which is develop a process and procedure that supports and encourages curricular departments, grade levels, and campus support departments to identify their needs and visions for growth. We obviously are using that PLC framework. I actually have put in here what they're using for standards revision for 22 to 26. You can kind of see the 3 subjects that are coming due here in July of 25, and then ELA literacy will be completed July of 26. And so looking at that literacy goal is probably our best plan to get ready to purchase something soon. So I put that in the report as well. Goal number 3, I hit which is family, community, external engagement. I hit sub-goal number 1. We'll proactively communicate student successes and highlights. I think one of our goals is to be able to find something every day that we would like to highlight. At the elementary, that's what we're trying to do, is find something. We've asked teachers to help us, like let us know, let Sierra and I know if there's and upcoming events. And it doesn't have to be a big scheduled party or a celebration or anything like that. Like, we want to see everyday learning too, like what's going on. And I think our community needs to see that there is every day stepping into our classrooms, there is some great excitement and instruction going on with our kids, and highlighting that to let people know that these are the things that we're doing here. I think it only helps tell that story of what we do every day. And so we've really been working hard at pushing stuff out, and that not just big events, but everyday teaching events too. Goal number 5 is the last one, is operations and capacity building. I showed sub-goal number 4. It says curricular needs for 25-26 school year will be presented to the board ideally by January 2025. That is only 4 months away. To hear all the work that we've done, I'm going to do my best with our team to be able to try to get you something by January 2025. Obviously, the new superintendent of public instruction doesn't take office till January. And so some of that is kind of a moving target. We're going to have to, I'll continue to update you on what that looks like and what we're going to do for our timeline for curriculum adoption. Lucky enough to have connections to other districts that have curriculum directors that do that full time, and access to their resources and what they're doing as we move forward and change administration is important to keep that line of communication open. Any questions that you have?
I want to quickly, very sincerely thank you for your approach to the sub goals and tying what you did in. I want to let you know that although all of you were hired, you really weren't part of our summer work, but a lot of this was developed. I would say that I think everything we developed, as we spent a lot of hours and a lot of time doing that, is with the caveat that if things come up and things change or the realities of a new person taking office in Helen and stuff, I think every time we set something on paper and voted on it, it was with the understanding that when you, when Dave, when others come forward and say, hey, we're going to make this happen, we need to bump the timeline on it, we need to do something. I think we're all exceptionally amenable to that. If these weren't written in such a way that if something doesn't happen because it said so, that the wheels fall off. So that was not our thinking.
Great to know.
Questions? Freaking Brent.
Question, I just had a comment. These are amazing reports. It was so refreshing. I mean, not only as a board member, but as a member of the public. I mean, I've been getting these board packets for years, and it was just refreshing to open it and to know what y'all are going to present, and to be able to read through it, and to be able to have something to go back to refer back to. And so I appreciate, because I know that y'all's time is very valuable to our school district. And I appreciate the effort that is put into that. The other thing that I'm just sitting here thinking, Sarah, those kids are little and they want to present to the board or to tell the board. I would welcome to go into your classroom or to those teachers' classrooms if they want us to come at their time and let them present to us so that we can tell the board. So please know that those options are open as well. I'm thrilled to hear that they want to talk to the board. So thank you guys so much.
Further questions, comments?
The reason they can't come to the board?
No, they can.
They can, yeah, we can absolutely.
I just told them they didn't have to.
Yeah. We can certainly make things happen before the sun goes
We
down.
could do videos too, and show you some videos.
I think cupcakes.
Ooh, that'd be cupcakes. And there's ice cream already.
Right.
Tony?
So your attention to detail is impeccable, and I super appreciate this. And I'm probably gonna be a little bit of a thorn in your side going forward, trying to figure this out, just so I can make sure that I represent it accurately and sell it to the public. I think we have a minimum. I couldn't be happier with the people that are here, but I still am gonna keep working on this until I get to where I know exactly what we're doing here pretty much every day, because I feel an incredible responsibility to the kids that are here. And I think there's lots of kids that have been run through a school system and completely and totally failed. And it breaks my heart to see them. And if anybody wants to do this, all you gotta do is show up at the courthouse on a Tuesday morning, and they're all in flip-flops and orange coveralls. And so I'm not trying to be a pain, but I don't know what I don't know. And it's a huge deal for me when I tell people to vote for me, that I'll represent you. So I think you're doing amazing. I couldn't be happier, but that's some of the motivations for what I do here. But going forward, just so you understand that, I just think it's so important what we do here. There's so many people relying on us, the community, the kids. It's totally the future of what we got. And when I look at the chaos in our country today, it all starts right here. So thank you 100% for what you guys are doing. And I'm still going to keep asking questions because I don't know what I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, for asking questions.
Have you checked out the YouTube videos? They're very informative.
Yes, I have one. They're very good.
We don't get Tony on a.
Yeah, you have it.
Oh, there you go.
Triple T Tuesdays or something.
I do like.
I can get wound up a little bit.
I do have a curriculum question. It's kind of just apropos to tonight. I was going to ask it anyways, but apparently, according to this letter, all school boards were mailed a packet on IEFA. And so I've got mine right, or got ours right here. And just kind of where does IEFA fit in the big ELP through 12 curriculum plan, and knowing as well our history with it and the work that we need to do in that space.
Sure. I don't want to take too much of your time, and Dave can cut me off anytime here. But, okay, so the Common Core was, created, 6 or 8 years ago now, and it was created by the 50 state school officers, which are your state superintendents across the nation, right?
Right.
They came together and they created Common Core, and right away there was opposition to it, right? And the states were like, well, hey, we have some of our own standards and beliefs in our state, and we want to be able to change them. So what they believed was going to be, and they were going to tie money to it too, right? Tie money to making sure you adopted those Common Core standards across the nation. And so, man, it took a big hit right away, especially with math, right? People did not like the Common Core math. And there's so many things they could say about it. So states started breaking off from Common Core, right? But most of them all started with that framework of Common Core and then made their own standards, right? And so with Montana, we have 85% of our standards are basically an iteration of that Common Core, and then our own state's top professionals looking at those standards and saying what's important to us in our state. Then the other 15% of that comes from IEPA, and that's where Indian Education for All comes into play. And so we are required by law, and have been required by law for some time, to be able to teach those standards and where they're at. And so coincidentally, we looked at a great resource this last Wednesday from Discovery Learning that was purchased by OPI. They have a Discovery, and they have a whole section on Montana's IEPA. And so it's been a great resource for us to be able to show our teachers how to access more materials that hit a lot of those standards. We're obviously going to need to continue with more professional development. That's going to be part of what we do every year, I think. And we also need to probably include that into our new teacher training as we get new staff on board. They're going to need to understand what we do here and how we meet those standards.
Okay. And Superintendent Tennis, are we on track with the fiscal reporting requirement that the legislature put in a year ago?
We're sure working on it.
Okay. All right. Good questions? All right, thank you. Thank you all. Great reports, great information. This brings us to our business and action item section of the meeting, which will start first with out of district enrollments. And we'll start first with the elementary, if there are any. I'll remind the board that in this business and action item section of the agenda that it'll be our goal, as we stated in our work retreat, that we lead with a motion on items after we have heard any context or information delivered by the superintendent. So does the superintendent have any context on these out of district students that we should know before motion is made?
I don't have anything to add other than the review process that's in front of you. I don't know if either Sierra or Andy has anything to add about any of those, but the questions that we ask are pretty straightforward there.
Okay.
So just to clarify, if we're enrolling a student into the Harmony program and they are in district, we're not filling out one of these forms. All of these students are objectively
Out of district, yes. Out of district.
Very good.
I'm ready to make a motion.
All right.
I move to approve the enrollment of elementary students as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tony there with the second. Thank you, Stephanie, with the motion. This is an elementary action item only. We'll proceed with a roll call vote, starting with Dan. How do you vote?
Aye.
And Fran?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
I vote aye. Stephanie?
Aye.
Billy?
Aye.
And Nathan?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Out of district, you mean a district that does not have Harmony.
Yeah, no, they are not a resident of this district.
So would they be coming from Corvallis possibly?
They shouldn't be, they could be. Once all of the schools get that in place, then
We'll see less of that.
yeah, you'll see less of that.
All right, two students, anonymous students in front of you tonight for consideration of admission to the district. Superintendent Tennis, Mr. Caney. Would you like to provide any context?
The first one, last three, 825, that student actually started with us and is doing great. We just realized we have a change of address. So that is now an Arizona student. And so that student, of course, is easy to check on because he's right there with us. So that student is been accepted. The other student with the 050, met with that student, and student is refusing to come to school. Doesn't go to school, hasn't made an attempt to go to school. And so at that point, after visiting, we felt like it was best for us to wait on that student. So we've had that student.
Thank you. Questions, Nathan?
Not to be one, someone to be approving.
You're approving the recommendation that the administrator is giving to you. Normally, what you've seen in the past is just those that have gone through the process and been approved. But parents under this new policy and new law have the right to come and appeal that recommendation. And then the board has the authority to either support the administrator
recommendation or not, which could potentially admit. So the motion in front of you would be to either approve these as presented, which includes some denials, or if there were an appeal, you could change that.
But speaking more specifically, if he, that'd be,
You're allowing for them to enroll at Stevensville School District.
so he didn't want to go to school at the previous district. I'm just talking about, oh, I accepted. I'm talking about 05. Just him, you said that he doesn't want to go to school.
Yeah.
Right.
doesn't want to attend and refuses to.
And they just be clear, are you noting the circle down here?
Correct.
Okay, your recommendation, okay.
So the enrollment was filled out by a parent, or I mean, how did we even get this if he doesn't want to come to school?
So parents walk in the door, they fill out all the paperwork. We have a whole packet of information for them. And they fill out, are you in district or out of district? And if you're out of district, you fill out what's called an FP14, which changes hands and goes all over the place. This district, the next district, and OPI. In addition to that, there is a form that accompanies this that has the family's information on it that the administration sees, and they ask these questions, but essentially they are filling out an application for the administrator to do a review. And what the administrator is doing then is asking the previous school, do they come to school? How's the attendance? Have there been any behavioral issues? Are we making academic progress? And so that little glimpse of those conversations with their resident school or their home school, that is what this is based on. And then if there is reason to deny based on any of that information, then a recommendation to deny enrollment would be included in the package. If everything looks good, then the administrator would certainly accept, and we would accept that student into the district. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Further questions?
I would be happy to make a motion then.
All right, Fran?
I make a motion that we accept the high school out of district enrollment as presented.
Second.
All right, been moved and seconded, and I want to clarify for the record that when we say as presented, we are sustaining, because this is a little for the recommendation.
Yes.
The little bit, no, it's just different than how we've done it. So the recommendation, and I guess I feel like to be clear, because the minutes of the public don't have that in front of it. I think it would be appropriate to say student ID.
825.
Accepted. Yeah, because I feel like otherwise it feels like a gray area that everything's just being accepted.
If you wish, you could make a motion to approve the administrative recommendation as presented. So now you're confirming their recommendation to either accept or deny. So you're either supporting their recommendation or this is just a suggested motion, but that is within your prerogative.
And
then I'm pretty sure that's the way we had done it before when we had it declined on it.
yeah, okay. So is there interest in taking back the second and the motion and rephrasing it? What's that? We should. So who made the second?
I did, I'll take it back.
Okay, and would you take your motion off the table?
Sure, how would you like for me to reword it?
Well, I think what Superintendent Tennis said would be the way we'd want to go. I think to be very clear that we're rather than approving these as presented, instead we are approving these as the administration's recommendation.
Okay. So I make a motion to accept the administration's recommendation on out-of-district enrollments for the high school district.
Thank you. Yeah, is there a second? Billy's got a second there. It was Nate's, okay. Fran, Nate, thank you. High school motion here, all trustees are eligible. Further questions? All those in favor of, accepting the administration's recommendation, for approval and or, denial of admission to the district, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, we'll collect these as always based on their private information. All right, that brings us to a variance of standards request and application. It's a 6-page application that the district office has meticulously filled out that gets turned into OPI. This is related to our middle school library and the number of students that we have in middle school and elementary. Before we take action on that, Superintendent Tennis, is there some context, anything you'd like to add to what's already in the packet?
Nothing in particular, but this arrangement seems to be successful in our middle school. If it were not successful, we probably wouldn't be renewing this application, but I feel like we are serving the needs of our students and our teachers, and our kids have great access to library standards, lessons, collaboration with our library, elementary library. And so I definitely support the renewal of this application.
And does this, does not result in a, does this result in a thing?
If the variance is approved, it does not.
Okay, very good. All right. Right, this is an elementary only, subject matter. Is there interest in, action motion on this?
I'd love to make a motion.
Stephanie?
I move to approve the renewal for a variance to the standards in the elementary library.
Is there a second?
Second.
Billy with the second there. All right. Any further questions or comment on this? All right, we'll start Dan. How do you vote?
Aye.
And Fran?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
I vote aye. Stephanie?
Aye.
Billy?
Aye.
And Nate? Motion passes. Thank you. This brings us to our, we have an action item looking for the rescinding of the approval of Stevensville transportation routes that were handled in the September meeting. Before we go any further with that, I want to clarify that based on advice from the county superintendent, Virginia Plattenberg, based on information that Superintendent Tennis has gathered. We are not at this time changing any routes for arguably tomorrow morning. Kids need to get on buses and do things. What this action would do, should it be approved, would be open the door to then have a discussion and figure out what those routes should look like, what those mileages should look like, what that process should look like. And then if there is need for parent, family, public input on that we kind of missed out on earlier. And so this would be undoing that action from September with, to be clear, to be 100% clear, at this time, absolutely no change, no immediate change in where a bus would travel tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, the next week after that, until we got all parties together and figured out what that looks like. So that's been confirmed from the county. And anything you would add to that?
No, that's right. That's correct. So this will not change any of our services for tomorrow.
For tomorrow, yeah, or yeah, next day after that, until we figure out what that would look like. So,
And what was the reason behind this?
the reason behind the motion or the request to rescind is the wrapping our heads around the services that were taken off the table at the beginning of the school year, certain routes that have been served for, certain roads have been served for many, many years, no longer being served. It's possible that, and I'm going to speak, it's kind of just me speaking here, but in our spirit of doing a better job communicating as a district, our efforts and our interest in really trying to be communicative towards parents and families. We probably missed the mark, and I apologize to the public and that we missed the mark, that we probably should have sent a letter to families and saying, hey, yeah, maybe, your road's been served for 20 years and we're not going to do that anymore. And so we needed to kind of have a little more dialogue with our bus contractor to understand what they were thinking when that happened, and then see where that kind of sorts out. Kind of have some more dialogue on that, check with MCA and check with the county. It is the school board's sole responsibility to set routes and set the roads that they go on. And so I think there's an opportunity to have some really positive, fruitful conversation. And it's my understanding that we have some new folks from Harlow's. I realize we don't have a motion on the floor or anything, but would welcome introductions, or it's nice to meet you. I apologize.
Came from Seattle.
Okay.
I just got here about a week ago.
Okay.
And so I'm just kind of getting the feel of the neighborhood and the community. Been kind of on the ball with Dave here, and we're just gonna push forward and make things happen.
Okay.
So when you say that the county had a recommendation, you said this as well. Does the county normally have, how are they involved?
The county did not have a recommendation to rescind this. The county, when asked what implication that would have, the county said that.
It's up to you.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I want to be clear,
Gotcha.
the county did not recommend. The county takes our recommendation, which came forth in September.
Yeah.
And then adopts that. And it's largely around the mileage, and then for routes, not for activities, but for routes, there's a very formal process of how many miles were driven every day. It's very standardized. And then there's forms that go to OPI, and then that's all reimbursed. And so that's kind of the county's role in it. And then they publish on the River Valley County website, very clear maps of where everything is. And so there was changes made that that just weren't clearly articulated. And I think we owe the public and the community an opportunity to better articulate those.
I will say that we, when we are going through this process, and I want the community to know, we serve the entire district. But we don't want to drive where there are no kids.
Sure.
Right. We want to go where the kids are. That's why we do the registration process to identify where do the kids live that are eligible for transportation. And Edgelog is what helps us to do that. Where are all of these kids located? What should the route look like? And I think that's important for people to know. If somebody walks into the district tomorrow and registers for school and registers for transportation, lives in an area that we currently don't have a bus route driving to, we adjust. We will adjust a route depending upon that location, and we will go pick those students up.
So I'm under some misinformation here, in improving this, and I apologize to everyone in the room with the facts, but I was under the impression that we had approved routes that were not driven. That routes when a bus driver forever in this district has gotten to the end of his route, or if he's dropped off his last kid, they go home. We're paying on a map, not on actual mileage. And I was incorrect in thinking that we were paying by the mile because our contract was a mileage contract. Now, there's many other things that are being entered into this right now. And so I think it's super important that we figure out and get to the bottom of this, because many times I know of 2 or 3 routes that don't get fully driven unless the kids are on the bus. They don't make the route with the empty bus. They cut and go home. So the mileage driven is always less than the mileage on the map. So there's been approved routes in the past that sometimes were driven for an entire year. And so I'm wondering, And now I'm learning more that across the state, this is how it's done. And so at some point, there needs to be a reconciliation of actual miles driven and not paid off just a map. And I don't know how that's, I don't know where that works, and I don't know what the legalese is that sets it up, and might not make any difference, but certainly in the past, there's been approved routes that were not driven, and I, in my own ignorance, assumed that was going on today, and it was wrong, and I apologize.
And I'll maybe speak slightly to that here. I want to interrupt real quick. Mr. Conan, would you do us a huge favor and prop that door open? I think legally we have to have the door open for the board. Sorry to call on you, you're just closest here. Thank you. Point well taken. I do think there was some effort made in good faith by Harlow's to make some routes more efficient. I think it was a good faith effort. I think when discontinuing service to families that had always counted on service, we missed the mark on that. And so I think there's some good things happening on both sides and some things that we can correct a little bit on both sides.
So did we hear from families then that all of a sudden there was no bus to pick up their kids?
I believe the district office heard from some, and I think they're, yeah. And we haven't opened the floor to public comment.
I had one bit of information.
And then we adjusted the.
We did not, but, what happened was, and I know Janet is here, Winters Lane was an area that was not served. And so the question was, I asked Brody Estelle, give me a summary of what this is all about. And Brody's summary of that was that the recommendation from at the time the Harlow manager was not to drive the bus down Winters Lane because it's difficult to turn around. And then that feedback about, well, we've driven this road forever, came through. I asked Matt Dickerson, who was the interim supervisor, to evaluate that, and he said he doesn't recommend riding down that road, and wasn't sure about whether or not a culvert on the road was bus rated. And you have some information in your packet that is from Janet in your packet for your consideration too. I don't mean to put Jason on the spot. He's been on the job for 72 hours. It's one of those things that, I don't know what the right answer is, whether or not I don't drive a bus. But if Winters Lane is not convenient to turn around or not easy to turn around and it's not safe, then I would support the recommendation of the manager that said we shouldn't be driving down that road. But at the same time, that is your prerogative to say we're going down that road. That is a board decision.
Ben.
Yes, Fred.
So just to clarify, we changed the route so that we weren't going on Winters Lane, but that does not mean we were not making a stop to pick up children that are on Winters Lane. It was just not going down Winters Lane to pick them up.
Correct.
So we weren't denying service to anyone. We were changing the kind of service that we were providing.
And I believe Jason's been driving that route, so.
Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I think part of the
Clarify.
action item to rescind is, and it's a little bit now like putting the toothpaste back in the tube, but we didn't provide any notice of that either. And so in terms of being good communicators with our families, that was a shock.
So did they not know where the bus stop was gonna be?
I don't think so. It just wasn't, it was just not on their road anymore.
Okay.
So I can tell you, from personal experience that in 1975, the bus route was going down Winters Lane and turning around in the same spot. It's been running for
Same with Hulk.
a long time. It's that particular route. So I just, like I said, I just was didn't ask enough questions when we did this last time, and I apologize to everyone involved.
Fran?
Just one more thing one of the notes that I made, and one of the things, if we're going to rescind it, if we're gonna look at things in more detail, one of the things that I would like to see, unless it's on this report and I'm just missing it somehow, Dave, is like, how many children are we picking up at each of these stops? Like, how many students are we picking up? Is there stops that potentially we're picking up one child at the stop? And could that, in looking at that, could that be combined with another one? Because I do know one situation, as of last year, the stop that we made at Higgins and Kitzer, last year there was only one student that caught the bus there, but there's also a bus on Lupine, which is not that far from that same bus stop. So could we combine that? So if we start looking at this in more detail, I think that that's a good information to have. Are we picking up one student at a bus stop, or are we picking up 5 at a bus stop?
Well, and I, total devil's advocate, because I honestly know nothing about these bus routes at all. But to say we've been doing it since 1975, road condition, the road itself can deteriorate, it can change based on construction and how many houses and how many kids or not kids are living on that road. I know on the road I live on, at one time, there were 3-4 kids getting on that bus, and as far as I know right now, there are no kids getting on at the bus stop my kids used to get on, and so on. I don't think the bus stops at that stop any longer. And so I think just because we've done it forever doesn't necessarily mean we should do it forever. I think we need to look at the safety of the conditions currently. And I think using our bus experts, who are the ones driving the buses and keeping our kids safe, is, something we need to do.
Thank you. Dan?
Hindsight has 20/20 vision. I'll come back to something Tony's alluded to. If we're gonna if we are the board, and when we as a board are asked to approve bus routes, so on and so forth, and things related to that, I think it's imperative that we be presented with appropriate information that allows us to make those decisions. And allows us to make those decisions with as much information as is reasonable. When all I get in a packet is from somebody that I believe is responsible, no longer here, that says, well, the bus routes are all just basically the same. And then I come to find out they're not. So I think it's important that when we are in the future or whenever asked to make decisions, that pertinent information, and especially if it's significant in the way it changes and affects, in this case, bus routes, who's being served, where we go, things related to that. I would really like to have accurate, up-to-date information so I can make an informed decision, which I don't think I got to make here last month.
I'm going to go ahead and open the floor up for public comment, because that's kind of where this item is trending. I will remind all that the action item before us is the rescinding of the approval of all the routes, with the understanding, the explicit understanding, that that doesn't actually change anything until this board takes additional action. So all routes will stay the same until this board comes together again to take additional action with what, and Stephanie asked this earlier, what I hope we can sit down with new folks and really figure out what that should look like, and get all those right voices in the room and say, okay, what should that look like? And do we leave everything as it was done in September, because now we understand it better? Or do we make some changes? So the action would be to undo it, which is a legal action that the county superintendent has advised that we can't take. But again, nothing goes on file different with her until we take a different action than that. So that being said, open the floor for public comment. Though members of the public are asked to state their name.
My name is Janet Beebe, and, I've been trying to follow up the route changes as much as I can. It's my grandchildren that live on Winters Lane. They are now walking 3/4 of a mile. They took the stop from their lane and put it out at the East Side Highway. They're now walking 3/4 of a mile down a county maintained road to be picked up down on the East Side Highway. You made the comment that you want to leave this up to the bus drivers, the people who are driving these buses, and not leave it up to us. But I drove bus for 27 years. I drove for the district for 26 of those, 25 of those years. I have a real good grasp on what's safe and what isn't safe, and having kids standing out. They have the option of standing on Winters Lane, which is it's a good road. There's plenty of places to turn around. The bridge, there's no weight limits. I verified that with the road department. There are no weight limits on that road. There's no reason. I drove up there. I took pictures of the area where the bus can turn around, where the bus has turned around over the years. There's plenty of room to do that. But I guess one of the things that I'm really kind of confused by is the route changes were made at the beginning of the school year before there was any approval to do it. Harlow's just made the changes, and then they brought it to you in September and said, oh, we made these changes. I guess I don't understand how that can be done. They just decided to make the changes and then presented it to you guys like it was no big deal. Winters Lane isn't the only route that the changes were made on. There are other routes where changes were made. And there are roads that are not, there are kids that aren't getting picked up where they used to. There's routes where they're telling them that they gotta get off right there on Highway 93 now. So as a board, I think it's just like what you said, you were not well informed on things that were done. And it was just very upsetting for me to find out that my 3 grandsons were now walking 3/4 of a mile and standing next to a 65-mile-an-hour speed zone road on an S curve. And they were told that that's their bus stop. Michael told me that when I tried talking to him about it, I told him it wasn't safe, and he told me that was too bad. That's what they were going to do. That's the way it is. He wouldn't discuss it with me any further than that. So I'm hoping that you guys will truly take into consideration the safety of the stop for the kids. And it shouldn't matter if there's 1 child getting on that road or 10 kids getting on that road. If it's not a safe stop somewhere else, pick them up where it's safe. Michael told me he can't sit on the East Side Highway. If the kids weren't right there on time, it wasn't a safe bus stop for the bus to sit there. So if you've got 1 kid or 3 kids and one's lagging a little bit behind, he told me he would not sit there and wait for that 1 student. He would drive off and leave that student if he wasn't right there at the stop at that time. Not very safe for those kids. And then the winter weather. You won't let the kids out on the playground if it's 10 degrees or below. But you'll let some kids have to walk 3/4 of a mile and maybe stand on the side of the highway for 10 or 15 minutes waiting for a bus when it's freezing cold out. It's not safe. You got to think about the safety of the kids. And I know there's a mileage issue and all that stuff has to be taken care of. I know, like with OPI, I went to the meeting down in Hamilton and everything's figured out by mileage. So they said there was no major changes in the mileage. Well, just on Winters Lane in 1 month, they were driving 80 less miles. In 1 month, they eliminated 80 miles there. There are other routes that there were some changes made. So what is being told to me is that they added that 80 miles someplace else, but yet they're shortening up the routes. It doesn't calculate. Anyway, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I just hope that you guys really look at this and think more about the kids' safety. All of the kids, not just my grandkids, all of the kids. I drove bus for a lot of years and ran a lot of roads where nobody got on, but I still went because they could. If they're in district and they have the option of riding, they may only ride 1 or 2 days out of the whole school year. A lot of the athletes don't ride the whole time they're playing their sports. And then all of a sudden, when their sports are done, now they're riding again. So you can't just not go down these roads because they're not there every day. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there further public comment? Yes.
Jessica Martinez, when you guys do look at the bus routes, I know when we first moved here, Ray was our bus driver, fabulous guy. He stopped at every house because 15 degrees and the bus, we see the bus now only picks up at one end of each of our blocks and they zoom through there. And we see kids running down the road. So with the cold temperatures and if the bus doesn't wait for us, they're missing it. So just keep in mind, even if it's just one student or well, at this end of the block and our block's 3 miles long, but at this end of the block and that end of the block should be fine. It takes them a lot longer to get down there. And my kids are never on time. So just to try to keep that in mind when you're moving at the bus stops.
Thank you. Stephanie.
I think transportation's always a very, big issue. There's a lot that goes into it. It's complicated to figure out. There's, I don't know, the safety, the availability, it's a big subject to tackle. I do think it's worth rescinding and taking a review, but I am going to restate what I said at the work session. I would be happy to make a motion to rescind, but I would like first for us to consider what the process of reevaluating this will look like and what we're going to ask. My guess it's going to involve Mr. Astle and Mr. Powell and Mr. Tennis. So I want to have some understanding of what we're asking these guys to be doing and what we're asking for the time from them, what board involvement is going to be, and what that looks like going forward.
Brent?
I just want to clarify that the route that I'm talking about where there's one student, that student is being driven to that location. So no, I'm just clarifying that it's not an area that they would be walking to something. They're being driven there. And so I'm just looking at that's what I'm looking at. They had to be driven to either one of those locations. So.
I'd like to comment on Stephanie's very good question. Because it's not on the agenda to take a absolutely firm action on that tonight, I'll simply offer some speculative thoughts on that. Based on the structure of this board and I think the fact that we have established and set up an ad hoc governance committee. I think we've set that up. If the board agrees that that kind of works perfectly for this sort of situation to move this topic into that, so there can be some healthy committee level dialogue, report back, gather the people that need to, and handle it within a set structure rather than kind of a freewheeling. We don't know what's going next, because I think that's super appropriate. But we don't necessarily have it set up that way to vote on that, but that would be my recommendation. We take it up there unless there were to be some, anyone that would object to that or think it should be handled a different way for next steps. Does that put you in a place where you feel comfortable making a motion? And
It does.
Okay.
I would move to rescind the previously approved transportation routes for the Stevensville schools.
I second it.
Motion made by Stephanie, seconded by Tony. Per the rules, parliamentary rules around rescind, only those trustees who were present for passing the motion can vote on it. I was not, and so I will abstain. Was there anyone else who was, you were gone at the September meeting too? So rules of parliamentary procedure dictate that you can't rescind something you weren't there to approve to begin with. And so that leaves 6 members of the board to now vote on this. And so Dan, how do you vote on the motion to rescind?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Fran?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
I abstain, or I'm not allowed to vote. Stephanie?
Aye.
Billy?
Aye.
And Nathan, not allowed to vote either. Motion to rescind passes 6-0. And to be clear, for the umpteenth time, that does not mean there are any changes to anything until this board acts again. So everything stays status quo. No drivers are doing anything different tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon. We just now have the ability to look at things and figure it out.
Well, is it the pleasure of the board that this issue be taken up in that hearing?
That's the sense I got, but we don't have that as an action item, so I'd be uncomfortable voting on that. But
I'm not asking for a vote, we can just get a sense.
yeah, just the sense, is there anybody who would like to see it done a different way, set up a different committee?
I think the committee is okay. I just, when it does come back to the board, it's super, super clear.
Right.
The questions and the response, the questions and curious, really.
The solution.
Yeah, that way we know.
Okay.
Where the problems were and what we did.
Okay. So anybody else on the board have a request like Billy's, Billy and Stephanie's of what the committee is tasked with doing? I know Fran asked about, Fran asked about number of students that get on and stop. So they requested.
We could submit a list of questions to the committee or
Mhm.
concerns. and
Yep.
Okay.
Well, and I guess I would hope that we don't draw this out for forever and that we come to a conclusion fairly quickly for the families.
Yeah.
Who are looking for answers and also for our bus drivers to know
If there's a
they're
change.
needed and if there's going to be a change.
Yeah, I think,
Around.
I think ideally we'll see this again in November. So we'll come with the defined problems with specific solutions and hopefully have that in front of everybody in November. I think that'd be an appropriate time. Fran?
Then, who would be the appropriate person for us to send questions to that it would be talked to in government?
Yeah, myself and Dave.
Okay.
Yes,
thank
please.
you.
Thank you. All right. Right. Thanks all. We'll take up our, I believe it's our last action item of the night. In front of you, you have a memorandum of understanding from the Rural Behavioral Health Institute and our school district. There are 2 items here. The first one is asking us to approve the suicide risk screener for students in grades 6 through 12. There are a number of parts about what the company does. This is our 3rd year working with them, how things work with this, and hopefully there was some good discussion and questions were answered during our work session. So Superintendent Tennis, anything you'd like to add?
Just to point out, this is for students in grades 6 through 12. It is something that we have done the last couple of years. And I know that Ms. Cardoza is here, and this is, I think, an important tool for our counseling department to find out who may be struggling that maybe they don't. Yeah, so I would recommend the approval and continuation of this process.
I would welcome a motion, and I'll remind everyone we will have ample opportunity for discussion and questions after a motion is made.
I'll be glad to make a motion.
Fran?
I move to approve the MOU between Rural Behavioral Health Institute and Stevensville Public Schools to provide a suicide risk screener for students in grades 6 through 12.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. And now the floor is open for discussion or public comment.
I'm gonna make a quick comment.
Yes, please.
Whenever this comes up, I remember the parent who sat back there a couple of years ago who told us about how their child was screened and they had no idea how thankful they were for this screener because it brought to light issues that child was having and they were able to get them help. And if it hits one kid, that's huge. Suicide has touched our lives and it's a pain no one should go through. So.
Further board, Mrs. Cardoza, is there anything? We did have a discussion in our work session about this, so we have discussed it as a board.
I'm just here if you have any questions.
Thank you.
It has been a very useful tool for us.
Thank you. All right. All right, anything further? Okay. With that in mind, and this is a grade 6 through 12 item, so all trustees, I'll ask all those in favor of approving this MOU, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We have a partner action item that asks us to approve the data privacy agreement for the same Rural Behavior Health Institute. As noted, we had some good dialogue about that data privacy and how students' personal information is protected. So is there a motion on this action item?
I will make a motion.
Fran?
I move to approve the consent store, manage and use Merit Solutions HIPAA cloud-based data storage and allow RBHI to use data without identifying the Stevensville Public Schools or any of its students.
Second.
Motion made by Fran, seconded by Stephanie. Open for board comment or questions at this time. Public comment or question. All those in favor of approving the data sharing agreement with Merit Solutions, HIPAA approved cloud-based data storage, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I am going to take one quick opportunity here before we adjourn to ask the board informally, not an action item, that was our 6:30 meeting worth doing again. Can we do that in November?
That's, make a suggestion.
Please.
That work session, if appropriate, be an hour long, and touch on items, not just singular items that we choose, but all the items that are on the agenda. So that when we get to board meetings such as this, we're not sitting here having a captive audience while we have a debate, which we could have done in a work session, which is what the purpose of a work session is to have those discussions. And then when you get to the board meeting, and information is put out there and required, and it's only been a discussion. I hate to see people sitting here for 2 or 3 hours, especially administrators. I sympathize with them.
Stephanie?
I think that part of the point of school board meetings are to have the captive audience. And I do feel like sometimes during work sessions, if we don't have people here, conversation without public input, for me, that's a really big part of why I'm here. Having said that, processing transportation next month, I think that there will be a lot more to talk about. I also think that the public would want to be there for that, and it would, as long as we communicate out to the public that we're having the work session and transportation will be part of that. I could see that still being beneficial, but we can also still have that during the meeting.
David?
I was gonna suggest if we could kick it back to 40 minutes and something, to 45 minutes. I think that there was more discussion that was gonna be, and with this being the first time that we've done it, if we did try, whether we take Dan's suggestion of being an hour, and then we can, for, when we mid-December, then we go from that, then we go to 45, but I think that there was more discussion that we didn't need to draw the public on necessarily with unless they chose to be there. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I'm hearing interest in 6:15.
That's fine with me.
Yeah,
They're all-
making it a regular hour is gonna be tough for me. You know, getting.
Is tight. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So is 6:15 acceptable?
Yeah, I can.
The other thing that helps expedite that is we get a packet beforehand. If we as an individual board member have specific questions, issues, or what have you, there are people that we can contact beforehand, get those questions asked, or to find the pump and let them know those questions or concerns, whatever they happen to be, are going to be brought up. But if we don't do that, then we're missing an opportunity to be a little more effective when we get to board meetings or work sessions to have meaningful conversations.
Okay, we'll proceed accordingly then. Further business or comment for tonight? Public, okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So
Jennifer? Second? Nathan, all those in favor of adjourning tonight's meeting, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.